This episode of the WP Minute is brought to you by OmniSend. Do you sell stuff online? Then you need to meet OmniSend, the powerful yet refreshingly intuitive email and SMS tool that helps you make $73 for every dollar spent. OmniSend is that good and effective. You probably know the struggles of investing in digital ads with no guarantee it'll bring money back into your pocket. Use OmniSend and you won't have to find creative ways to make your audience notice you. You just talk straight to them. Use OmniSend pop-ups to build a contact list, then send campaigns directly to people who already want to hear from you. Automate everything with OmniSend. Just set it up once, sit back, and watch those sales roll in. If this sounds too good to be true, check it out at omnisend.com. Visit omnisend.com. Tell them thanks for sponsoring the WP Minute.
Hello, welcome to Whose Web Agency Is This Anyway? Starring Kurt Van Anen and myself, Toby Crines. Let's get right into it here.
Let's get right into it.
Robert DeVore asked a really interesting question. He said, how do you choose which ventures to pursue outside of the services work, if any? And then he said, for instance, are you focusing time only on marketing the services? Are you packaging up the services into different bite-sized chunks, or are you building related products that can be resold like themes and plugins? How are you diversifying your ventures, Kurt?
First off, I want to acknowledge Robert DeVore and his genius. Apparently, he can just kick out plugins like butter. This guy, right? I'm not in the product space. I take that back. I am in the product space, but not in that way. So a lot of what we do at Mañana No Mas is, let's say I work with a consultant, I do some needs assessment, I'll come up with a package for that consultant, so I know that they're going to want a CRM, a form tool, an appointment setter. Maybe they want an online, support ticket program maybe. And then maybe they want some online courses for coaching, right? Maybe they want some private coaching, like a Lifter LMS kind of package. So let's say we do that needs assessment. We kind of make that shopping list, and then we build it, we configure it, and we make it work. Typically, what I do at that point is I take a snapshot of that website and it's set up. And then that becomes a productized service or a productized item that we can sell to the next consultation company or to the next thing. Because realistically, the hard work was figuring out, based on your use case, this is the setup that we believe is going to work best for you in your use case. So then when you come along, a customer that has that similar thing, if you have created that as a blueprint, a snapshot, help me, they have a thing for that. They call it would not multi-site, full tenancy sites, multi-tenancy sites. It's like that concept. And so now the next consultant comes along and they go, let me guess, you're going to want a CRM, an appointment tool, or this or that. And they go, oh, that sounds wonderful. And I say, great, I'll see you on Friday and we'll upload your logo, your headings, your content. We'll package your pictures into these placeholder spaces, and they're ready to go. And it's kind of like a cool quick launch little package that I think the customer sees as being valuable because it's quickly delivered, but we don't have to remake the wheel each time.
Mm-hmm. And you could potentially charge the same amount, whatever.
Well, that's the weird part. Mm-hmm. So often you actually end up charging more. Right? Because you're offering it as a ready-to-go service, and you're able to put more of your development time into customizing that user experience based on the content. And I think if we're honest, I think the copy and the content in most cases is more important than the actual structure and build.
Yeah. One of the first questions I always ask when, leads come in, I'm always like, what? Basically, it's an iteration of the question, like, how are you making money here? Do you want to talk about technology or making money? Because they're not necessarily connected.
Yeah. It's interesting when I read Robert's question, I instantly have this negative feeling that comes from it, and it's my specialty is in the membership and learning space. So everybody that's in this membership and learning space makes this leap, this huge leap that they go, well, and then how do I convert this into a mobile application? And it's like, you don't even have a single paid user yet. Why are you thinking about a $30,000 investment to make a mobile application? Uh-huh. And why are we having the conversation? Yeah. I'm not your dude for this. Let's build you a business first, and then let's worry about the icing on the cake.
Yeah. One thing that what you said, so Robert, it addresses Robert's question, but it's kind of like a different way to address it, which is like, you don't have to like change your business to diversify your business or to make more money. You can just do it differently, like in a blueprinted way, like do more work with less time, charge the same or more, build them. Like I always think the Mighty Mo, what we're best at is responding to emails and answering the phone. Like we're better than anybody else I know in town at that. And that's what I tell people who come in. I'm like, we've been doing it for 18 years, but like, we're going to respond to every email you send within a business day. And they're all like, oh, that sounds great.
So, no mas, the catch line to Mañana no mas, underneath it says getting it done yesterday, but it's got an asterisk in there because it means getting shit done yesterday. And I came from that frustration. It was as a corporate director, in the corporate enterprise environment, I was the guy that had to call agencies and be like, hey, we need to make a change to the wording in the heading. And they'd be like, well, we can pencil you in from Thursday after next.
Right.
And I'm like, we're just going to change 3 words. Well, next Thursday after next. So 14 days from now, we'll be able to. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. I know it takes 10 seconds. So why am I waiting 14 days?
Yep.
And so we at Mañana no Mas, we became very focused on, we honor the budget and we honor the calendar, right? We've never gone up past our deadline and we've never gone over budget and asked clients for more money. It's just, if they change the scope of work, they change the scope of work. But it's to your point, answer the phone, answer the emails, be there for the client. And oddly enough, that is really, really rare in our space.
Yeah, and I see it as like, for all y'all out there looking to make more money, do a better job of that. You'll keep people around longer, sell more products. Because the other thing I notice when I do that, if I respond quickly, a lot of times I follow up with, what else is going on? Just kind of an open-ended, like, what else is broken that I can fix and get paid to fix,
That the upsell opportunity, so I just said we've never asked people for more money unless they change the scope of work. And that's the key phrase. The sooner you correspond with somebody, the sooner you answer their question, the sooner you have the opportunity to say something like, well, that's really outside the scope of the original project, but if you want me to bid that, we certainly can. And then it's like, boom, they become Lego blocks. You just start stacking, your revenue in that vertical because the customer trusts you, because you do what you say you're going to do.
I think it's particularly hard for freelancers. Well, I'll just say when the times when I've been like basically a solo operator or the person like managing all the work and the invoices and doing a lot of the work, like it's harder to do that, to like take a step back, be like, first of all, I remember to ask, but what is this thing you asked me to do? Yeah, I could do it in 10 seconds, so maybe I'll do it for free, but like, it doesn't have to be done for free. And it's hard. The further step back I get, the more I have like someone else asking that question, like the more money, it's like it changes the business. I guess I just wanted to point that out for freelancers. Like there might be opportunities that you're just not seeing because you're too deep in it.
There was a huge mental shift for me from the freelancer mentality to the agency mentality. And it was something that I think you could say it over and over and over and over again, and it wouldn't make sense until you actually experienced it. But if I charge somebody $1,500 to do something on a website, and then I give it to somebody else in my network to do that, well, that money's gone. So you have to start thinking like from a freelancer perspective, you're like, yeah, I could do that, and I could do it for $500 and have it done by Friday, right? But from an agency perspective, you have to think to yourself, if I got to pay somebody else $500 to have it done by Friday or Saturday or Monday, then I have to review the work, and then I have to, so that $500 task becomes the $1,200 or $1,500 task. And I think a lot of freelancers miss an opportunity because they could be billing at more of an agency rate so that when they're ready to expand, they already have the funding in place to handle it.
Yeah, or not, or they're going to the bank every week and feeling great about it. I think there's this weird thing that it's exactly what you're talking about, but it's like this mentality that happens. And I have these conversations with freelancers here locally in Minneapolis and running very similar businesses to mine, but but I run it more like an agency. And I just noticed like the way we talk about it is a little, not you and I, but when I have someone in that freelancer mentality or mindset, they have this idea of what fairness is. And it's a different idea than I have. Like I try to be really fair, really transparent and honest, and they're trying to be the same thing, but their definition of it is way different. It usually involves like lower fees as part of their like definition. I'm like, why is lower fees part of a definition of fairness? Like, you know?
Well, the whole conversation of billing based on hours is a very foreign conversation to me at this stage of the game. Because, well, let's just face facts. If I'm in an enterprise Lifter LMS build, I can build the structure of that website, you know, I should say minutes, but let's just say I can do it in less than a day, right? Whereas the average freelancer that's doing all kinds of piecework here, and here, they might be on that thing for 2 weeks, 3 weeks trying to figure out, tick this box, don't tick that box, this integration goes here, this API code goes over there. But because it's a specialty of mine, I can do it much more quickly. So does that mean I do it cheaper because it takes me less time? No. It means the value I'm bringing to the table is exponentially greater. So that value is what you base the billing on, not the hours. And I think that there's a lot of freelancers that still get stuck in that trading hours for dollars thing, not realizing that they're getting better and better at their craft. That doesn't mean they should make less and less money. Usually getting better makes you more money.
Yeah, I just filled out an RFP. It's pretty rare that I do RFPs, and this was an existing long-term client, and so normally I wouldn't even do them for that. Like it was just like an open call for RFPs, and I'm just like, ugh. But because of our history, I was like, okay, I'm going to go for it. And one thing they asked in there was, "What's your hourly rate?" And I was like, I don't want to even, like, this doesn't even, I've never done hourly work for you. Why are we talking about hourly? Like, it's not even like I'd rather bid it out based on, yeah. Cause what you're saying, like, if it takes me an hour, who cares what it costs? Is it a fair rate to you or not? And that's the other thing about like this definition of, so let's say the rate is, there's some ethics to the rate. And that's kind of this, I've seen it time and again, particularly with freelancers. Yeah. I guess like everybody, you could take that ethics to 10 different people and they're going to give you a different number for what fair is.
Fair is always within $10 or $15 of your hourly rate. Anything more than that is highway robbery, right? And anything less than that is that person's giving away their time and devaluing the industry for all of us. It's that perception, right? It's like if you ask somebody, a salaried employee, hey, what's a reasonable salary for this type of position? They're going to say somewhere in the range of 20 or 30 grand of what they're making, right? And then anything over that is highway robbery, and anything less than that, that person's devaluing the position. So we just have to recognize that, you know, the money's the money, the rate's the rate. I try to charge things based on the value provided. And so I generally work on a lot of things that create revenue. So I think to myself, does my client have a valid opportunity to 10x their investment with us? So if they spend 10 grand with us, do they have the ability to convert this into $100,000? And if that answer is yes, I'm all in. Like it's going to be 10 grand, bro. And it seems like a lot. Well, you could hire someone with less experience, could take a little bit longer to get it done. Good luck.
Yeah, great point. Let's next question here. Eric Karkovic asks, how do you think the new WordPress release schedule will impact freelancers? Did I pronounce his name correctly? I might have messed it up.
Karkovac. I'll go with that.
Karkovac. Sorry, Eric.
Karkovac. Eric Karkovac.
Good guy.
Do you want to answer first? Because my answer is going to be maybe a little more contrarian.
Oh, let's hear the contrary view of whatever the non-contrary view is.
So people in Slack groups and people that go to WordCamp and people that just got back from PressConf and those people care what WordPress is doing. For the first dozen years that Mañana No Mas was in business, I didn't even know there was a community to WordPress. And so I think in the grand scheme of things, when we say, how does this impact freelancers? It doesn't. They don't give a crud. Like nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but there's such a high percentage of people in our space that aren't connected to our space that, hopefully some of them find this podcast. Hopefully some of them go, oh my God, I didn't even know there was a WordCamp. What's a WordCamp? My first WordCamp was WordCamp US San Diego 3 years ago. And after that, I became an addict. Like I started going to local WordCamps and Zoom WordCamps or WordPress meetups and all kinds of stuff. But I think in general, freelancers don't care. It doesn't matter when the next thing is released, as long as I know that my client has a reasonably updated version on their website.
Yeah, and I think the old schedule was quarterly, and now it's annual. Is that kind of the idea?
They're saying annual now. Yeah, one major release a year.
So here's how I agree with everything you said, and in fact, it probably makes it more. Well, it's a couple things. A, it makes WordPress more stable for us developers across the board, so that's a good thing. Yeah. On the downside, if you're charging for maintenance, there's maybe less need or less perceived need for your service, and that could be a downside. But I don't think however us developers are barely thinking about it, our clients
our clients don't even care.
They don't.
I can remember it very vividly. I had a client that we were doing some deep customization work in WooCommerce for them. And this was the job. This was a job you sell and you wish that you didn't. We from an agency perspective, I was like, why do they want me to do this? Like you don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the users. You're asking for they wanted like pixel perfect recreations from a Figma file to this WooCommerce reimagined internet experience. And they're great people. I love the client. I just think what we were doing was a little weird. And I would tell them, I think what you're doing is a little weird, but that's what they wanted. They were very resolute. This is what we want. And as we were building that out, that's when the whole WP Engine WooCommerce thing happened. And I got nervous because they were on WP Engine. And so I finally asked him on a call, I said, hey, have you been getting emails from WP Engine? And he goes, oh, yeah, I see that stuff, but the website works. Like, as long as the website keeps coming up, we really don't care. And I was like, okay. And I was like, so at the level that this customer was having me do all this custom stuff, and I thought that they really had their finger on the pulse of things, they didn't care, you know. And so we think these horrible things because we're so close in the community, you know, with the WP Minute folks and Matt Medeiros and all these folks. We think, oh my goodness, the sky is falling. Matt had a bad morning, you know, or it's like, and then in the reality of it, nobody cares.
Right.
Everyone's disconnected and it doesn't matter. And you know what? It's just Monday morning.
Yeah. You know, and the other thing, like, you know what? The only times our clients know or think there's a problem is when the sales aren't happening. And I don't even mean e-commerce. I mean, like, they run a lawyer shop and they're like, we need another client.
Yeah,
like, then they're like, what's wrong with the website? But as soon as that client comes in, they're like, we'll see you next year. Like,
yeah, I work a lot in the power sports space. And so a lot of web leads come in, right? And I can't tell you. So I should say I train people in the power sports space. So I'm not necessarily making their websites. And so part of the training is, okay, you need to have 100% lead follow-up. You need to be able to demonstrate to me that you follow up with 100% of your leads. You can do this by showing me a screen capture or a report or whatever your CRM gives you for these leads. I got to tell you, Toby, it's at least 75% of the time business owners with millions invested in their business. I'm not talking small shops. Millions invested in their business. They pull up a report and they go, well, we haven't had any leads in like 3 months.
Right.
You know, through our website. I'm like, so you think your website's working?
Right.
Like, what else on your website's not working? And then I do a website audit with them and I go, I'm not your web guy. Like, if you need to take this back to who your contract is with.
Mm-hmm. I think I wish and think, and I don't know, like, I would rather be having those conversations with, maybe it's just my, like, where I'm at as a human or whatever. Like, I wish people would just call and say, how can I make more money? I'd be like, okay, my expertise is website and some marketing stuff. Let's talk about how we can make you more money. And, you know, it's like a very different conversation than like them coming to me saying, build me a website because I need more leads, or, you know, like.
Yeah. Well, and here's a weird one. And it's just, and I talk about this a lot, right? your clients, do they ask for a lot of like weird customizations or modifications that, and in your mind, you're like, where did that request come from? Like, what in your UX experience makes you think that that's a requirement for your website to make that more money? That like, where did you get the idea that that's your conversion linchpin?
Right.
Because I'm talking to clients that if they were in Kajabi, they wouldn't have that option. If they were in Podia, they wouldn't have that option. If they were in Shopify, they wouldn't have that option. But because we're in WordPress and we can do anything we want with WordPress, they're like, that needs to be like a pink camouflage button,
right?
And that needs to be purple. And you're going, what are we doing?
Yeah,
are we doing it because we can?
And WooCommerce is the worst for this feature creep ridiculousness. Like, you know, they see the Woo. I don't know where they get these ideas. 'Cause I don't think they're on WooCommerce.com. But they're like, can we do this? Can we? You know, I don't know. They're on Amazon and they're on some. I saw this thing. Can we do this? I'm always like, slow down. Like, how about we like sell something? like,
but then you search on WooCommerce and they have an add-on for $199 a year that does just that.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. And it's guaranteed to break in 3 months when something updates. You know.
So when you get those requests from an agency perspective, do you look at it like, hey, here's another income opportunity and another vertical for customization? Or do you put on your consultant hat and be like, that would cost you this much more to implement that? What's your reasoning? And is there something else we should do with that budget?
Usually it's the latter, actually. And honestly, I feel some responsibility as like a guide through the wilderness.
Yeah.
I have friends who run very successful agencies in town who don't. They just say, yes, we can do that. Thank you for asking. Here's what it's going to cost. And I don't judge. Like, I'm just like, it's not me. I'd rather have the conversation about the why. But honestly, I go, if they're coming to you asking, let's say it's a bad question. That's in reality what it is a lot of times, a bad question. They're probably not coming going like, well, I need more money. What do you think I should do? I have this e-commerce shop. Instead, they're like, I saw this feature, build me this. And like one option is for you to say, sure, I can build that. I know there's a WooCommerce extension and it'll be X amount of dollars. But I will say, like, at a certain point, if I'm feeling a lot of pushback, my answer just becomes, yes, I can do it. Sure, here's the cost. Like, and usually I know right away if in the conversation if they're gonna like be open to the conversation or not. How about you? Someone asked for something. Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that we're on similar pages. I used to be in the framework of, well, if they asked for it, it must be important, so I'm going to do what I can to provide it. But over the years, I've really begun to adopt this. They asked for it. That doesn't make it important. we need to figure out where this is coming from. Because if I just say yes to everything and I chase my tail around, I've found that what happens is I might make more money up front, but the relationship gets damaged because 6 months later they go, I don't understand. We've done all this work and we've paid you extra for extra things and we're still not making money with this website. And then I got to go like, whoa. Like, how do you think that this website work equals like a return? Like, right. What have you done that actually makes money? Because of my experience in the automotive industry, I'm very keenly aware of the friends and family features, right? Mm-hmm. If you wonder why car dealerships always hire new salespeople, it's because new salespeople always come in and sell 10 cars right away. And then they run out of friends and family to buy new cars, right? Uh-huh. And then the struggle starts. Mm-hmm. And that's what you see with a lot of membership and learning websites is, you've got a list of 20 or 25 people that are going to support you and buy, an access plan, even at a discount, but it gets some revenue going and you get your hopes up. But if you don't market, if you don't do anything, if you don't take any if you don't join the entrepreneur network in your town, or, if you don't do anything, the website doesn't feed itself. It needs to be fed.
I also think people get stuck in marketing. Probably partly because that's like what our culture glamorizes, like Mad Men and Instagram. Like it's all about marketing and advertising. Yeah. But to me, like I always think like start with sales. Go find someone to buy this. Don't leave until they buy it. That sort of like mentality, like because you really don't need a whole lot of marketing or advertising to do that. But that's like, to me, the hard part. And this is like an example of features people want: automated sales processes.
Yeah.
Be it like an e-commerce site or membership site. The Mighty Mo has no automated sales stuff. And like, it's because I don't think it's like an infrastructure that's worth supporting. Like I'd rather like go out to, like talk to someone, get their credit card, ring it up on like done, next one.
I think we may mention this on our original show. I think we did. But it's amazing what people assume or believe is happening at what they perceive to be larger or more experienced enterprises. Like, I know, because I know people in the space, they make these assumptions that the plugins they sell are all automated, and that the access is automated, and that the license key is automated, and that all, you can go from this package to this package, and it's automatically, how they figure that, like you paid half the month and now half the month, and, prorations and all these things. No, in most cases, that doesn't exist. But for some reason, people that are new to the marketplace assume that all that is in place.
Right.
And so they're like, well, I must have that. And you're like, I know people doing $2 million a year that don't have that.
Right.
So why is this so important? Like, let's just get you selling some stuff.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, I met a guy who started a separate, I'm going to get a side gig going. And his side gig was selling training on Google Business, like Yelp ads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping businesses optimize their Yelp presence. Talk about like not technical, right? He would go to the business and he's like, here's what we can do for you, right? We'll take your pictures, we'll change your blurbs, we'll optimize your heading and your setting, and we'll take care of answering comments for the first 3 months. And your startup for this is going to be like $4,000 or something like that. And it's amazing because these businesses were like, oh, well, you need to have a good Yelp, $4,000. And it was, and if he was in a local region and he got 100 people to do that, that turned into decent money, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in the real thing, like what you and I think of as work, as an agency. So what was the real work? The work was the sales.
Yes.
The work was going door to door and telling people what you would do and how much it would cost and getting them to give you that check.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual work was like, so I walk around the building, I take a few pictures.
Right.
I put up a couple Google alerts.
Yeah.
When my alert pings, I respond.
Yeah. Well, and it's the work when you can outsource it. You can't outsource sales as easily as you can web dev.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's big chunks of that. I have projects, quite honestly, that I think are awesome. I think they're awesome, but their sales have not been high, and it's because the hard work is the selling.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you could extrapolate this a bit with communities. The hard work of building an online community isn't building the platform, right?
No, it's
what's the hard work?
Yeah. And a lot of people make this mistake. They assume, and this is bad because I'm in this space, this is how I make some of my money, but people have a thriving Facebook page, or they'll have a thriving LinkedIn group, or they'll have a thriving Instagram following, and they make an assumption that, hey, as soon as I promote my own URL, everyone's just going to come in there. I've got 80,000 people over here, so if I just charge $1 a person, I'm going to have $80,000 a month coming into this thing. And they start doing this numbers game in their head and getting optimistic. And what they fail to realize is getting people to migrate from one channel to another is one of the most painful things in the world. Facebook was censoring people like crazy during the pandemic, and people were trying to get off of Facebook and just migrate them over to a LinkedIn group. Nobody was going. Nobody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what's interesting about that? So we're in the WordPress community, so we have different perspectives maybe, but like, why would you leave Facebook for LinkedIn? Like, why wouldn't you be like, I'm going to self-host this. That way this will never happen again.
Oh, well, and that becomes part of that, right? So it's, if you can't get people to go from Facebook to LinkedIn, then it's a really far stretch to think they're going to go to your personal URL.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's the same conversation with the mobile application. I went to a motorcycle expo in Las Vegas, and I am a huge motorcycle nut. So I went to AIM Expo, and I was a a speaker at the event. I was a paid speaker to speak there. But when you got to the event, it said, oh, you got to put this app in your phone and, to know the speaker schedule and where the vendor booths are and all these things. I'm like, I'm not putting another app in my phone. No, that's stupid. Because then you're going to say, oh, you get access to my contacts and my pictures and my photos,
right,
videos, and forget this. I'm not putting this crap in my phone.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where people are at nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Like most people, I'm not putting another app in my phone.
Yep.
So if you think your business won't succeed without a mobile app, I need you to rethink what your business is then.
Well, I think too, the whole idea that, and this is common, I think, in my experience, is that people assume the app is the solution. And just to reiterate what we've been talking about, the solution is to sell more, not to build an app. Whatever, it doesn't matter where the community is. You still got to convince someone. I always think get them to join for $1. It can be $1 a month, whatever. But once you can get them to pay you once, you can get them to pay you again. At least that barrier to the second payment goes extremely far down. However tall it was, now it's way further, way easier once you get that $1 transaction.
You just reminded me of that guy from American Pickers, the TV show.
Oh, I haven't seen that. What's the deal?
Two dudes, it's been around forever. Two dudes drive around the country and they go and they look at antiques or junkyards. And then he calls it, oh, I got to break the ice, So he says, hey, how much for that rusty fender up there on the shelf? And the guy goes, well, I hate to let it go. I could let it go for $50. He goes, how about if I gave you 30? Would you take 30 for that fender? And he goes, yeah, I'll take the $30 or whatever. And then he goes, broke the ice.
Yeah, that's great.
Because now he's looking for a motorcycle or for a car or whatever, right?
So, that's funny. What do you do when you're feeling burned out, busy? And the burnout's probably too broad a term, but I have a lot. I just moved my house. I have a stack of boxes over here that's a mile high, and I'm feeling anxious the moment I wake up. And so how do you, and you can imagine, let's say you're trying to make a go of being a freelancer. Maybe you've been doing it a year and you're like, I need more money. How do you manage that expectation internally, and how do you manage that?
It took me a long time, Toby. That's a good question. It took me a long time to get over it because I used to think more hours, right? I used to think, if I just put in more time, I'm going to get more money. And it wasn't until fairly recent and, late in life that I realized that's not the equation. That's not how it works. And so I used to work in the car biz, 13, 14 hours a day, standing on concrete, selling. So I got that really hard work ethic kind of ingrained into me. And then in this space, that's not how this works at all. So if I find myself burnt out, stressed out, staring at the computer and nothing's happening, those moments, if it's a nice day, I'll just put on a pair of padded shorts and go out and do a 30-mile bike ride. If I do that something removed, it recharges me mentally. So then when I come back, we had talked earlier in the show, right? So sometimes there's things that might take someone else a week to do. I can knock it out in an afternoon because it's in my sweet spot. And so just like the book Strength Finders, I double down on my strengths. I go out, I bicycle, I come back, I'm mentally centered. I hit that keyboard and knock out a week's worth of work in an afternoon and go, man, I should go bicycling more often, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you look at your schedule and you see meetings. I just had a conversation with I'm on a board of directors, kind of an advisor's board, and we were meeting today, and I was very direct, and surprisingly others were on the call, that was like, look, time is getting very valuable, right? So either, because I like to add value to others where I can. I wouldn't do shows like this if I didn't, right? So am I adding a lot of value to other people? Are other people adding a ton of value to me that I just can't miss? Or is it putting a bunch of money in my bank account? And if it's not one of those three things, it needs to go. And so I was doing I don't know if you want to call it the Gary Vaynerchuk kind of thing, but I was making appointments with people and giving away time and give away the best for free, and all that work will come in. And maybe that's a great way to get launched. But if you've already been launched and now your time has grown in that value category, you can't keep giving it away like that. So you're either doing something because you really enjoy adding value to that other person, or that person's adding extraordinary value to you, or you're making money. It's got to be one of those three things, or it's got to go.
I like that a lot. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who is a brilliant coder, in person, just really nice guy. can't find a job for whatever reason, but
Yeah.
he's brilliant, a great coder. Anyway, we're conversing, and he's like, "Yeah, I just had a meeting with a guy who's building a business in town, and we spent." To me, it sounded like he spent more than an hour at a coffee shop giving the best information, like you're saying, like the Vanderchuck thing. And I told him, and he comes from more. He worked at an agency for the last 15 years or whatever, and I think like for him, and this is what I was trying to share with him, that I don't know how successful I was, but I was like, that next meeting you have, he needs to pay you $5,000, not for the meeting, but you have to have a contract worth at least $5,000 to take the next meeting, and you can have a quick phone call and sort that out. But like, I think that's very foreign to a lot of people who are getting started in the agency and freelancing world. Like, that like, it's okay to give a little bit away, but like at some point you got to ask for real money. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think about how many people did I give my best to over and over and over, because when you're young, when you're a freelancer, you're just getting started. And when I say young, maybe you left corporate and you started your own thing, but you're 60 years old. You're young in the space. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, well, if I just keep adding enough value, sooner or later they'll see the value and they'll offer me something. Mm-hmm. They're not going to make an offer unless you tell them what the value is.
Yep. There's a thing. That's why on YouTube you hear over and over again, like and subscribe, and you're like, I've heard it, but if they don't ask, people don't do it.
Yep.
Like you got to ask. I guess maybe that's the lesson. Ask for the money, and I would say ask before the first in person. And that's another thing. Like I go, see if you can get them on the hook for 1 hour at your hourly rate, because they've given you their credit card. That next sale is way easier once you have their credit card and you've billed them for that.
When I was the publication and training manager at Suzuki, I had a guy that worked for me, and I would consider us friends now. So his name's Bill. But when I first started working there, he annoyed the living crud out of me all the time, because whenever I'd say, oh, here's a new task that we have to do, he'd say, well, I'm going to want this, and this, and I'm like, why? How come every time I give you something to do, you're asking me for something? Like, you're supposed to work for me. And he would just go, well, if you don't ask for cake, you don't get cake. And I was like, But after like 6 months of that, it got to be where like he would start asking, I go, whatever, how much cake do you need for this? How much cake do you need for this? But he said, if you don't ask for cake, you don't get cake.
Yeah. And I think and that's the thing. Like, you don't know if somebody has cake to give you until you ask for their credit card, like as a freelancer.
Yeah. No. And as a freelancer, I was really surprised at how many people I donated my time to that didn't have the funding, didn't have the methodology to get to the funding. They were more lost than I was, but there I was in good faith trying to give them this good information. And then I realized, if I'm going to do that, it can't be in a one-to-one scenario anymore. It needs to be in a one-to-many situation. So it needs to be in a podcast environment or a mastermind or something like that, where the chances of somebody coming with funding or ability is higher to be in that group. But if you're doing everything one-to-one, it's very, very difficult to get your hooks into something and turn something into a success. Because and we don't know who our audience is yet. This is just our second episode, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know who needs to hear this magic, right? But it really is like sales is a numbers game. You're going to have to try with so many people before you get any kind of positives back. Mm-hmm. And so if you limit yourself consistently to a one-to-one thing as opposed to a one-to-many, you're going to end up missing out on a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. One thing, I think for many years, even when I started, I did not like sales. Like, I was very like, it's gross, it's like unethical, whatever, like every sleazeball idea that our culture kind of associates with sales. Because like every stupid comedy has some sleazy sales guy in it. And it's become like, for me, it was like, hey, I'll call you tomorrow. But once I got over that, and it took years, I started reading books about sales. And it's a science and an art like everything. And I really enjoy sales now. Like, and it's just me. It's not like I'm reporting sales figures to the boss, but like if I can get someone on the phone and close it, I'm like, yes, I closed it. And like, I get excited anytime I get a cold call or like, we'll call it a warm call, but someone's like, hey, do you do WordPress? I love it because for me, it's like this internal competition to like close it. And I will close it pretty much any reasonable number.
That's hilarious. When we were at that WordCamp in San Diego, I had just done some sales training, and one of those catchphrases from the sales training was, "Hey, I don't know if this is for you or not, but hey, just for fun, why don't you try this real quick?" Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like that disarming thing.
Love it.
So Lifter had these cards to give out, right? Like, so you could get your own demo site or something like that. And so all of us were at the table, and somebody came by, and I just said, "Hey, I don't know if this is for you or not, but hey, just for fun, why don't you take this card, try a demo site, see if you like it or not." And the guy's like, "Oh, thanks so much. It's great." And off he went, right? And Chris and Tom and Emily, they were all like, "What was that? Like, what just happened?" I go, "Oh, I'll do it again. Watch."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I did it again, and the same response. And they were like, "How? We've been standing here and no one's taking the cards, and now everyone's coming."
Right.
I go, "Let's do it a third time." And so that became our thing for the whole WordCamp. And so the after hours parties, it became like a contest to see who could give out the most amount of cards. We had so much fun. So much fun. But sales works if you make it fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the only way to make it. I don't know. I guess there's other ways. But like if you're a freelancer and you're trying to avoid sales, you're going to have, I think it's a hurdle you need to get over.
So we're going to come up on time soon. So I want to ask what I think is an important question for people that are listening. I've been around, you've been around. So how much of your week, what percentage of your week is spent on sales and marketing?
At least half of my work hours. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I do a lot of project management. So I even have a project manager who is fantastic. I don't think there's a better one out there. I've seen a lot of project managers, and she's right up there with the great ones. And even with that, she's managing 90% of the client communication, almost all the project management. I still invest a lot of time just making sure, like I'll do some QA, like I'll be like, so Julie and I, my project manager, we meet twice a week for an hour at 6 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So there's that. But then there's like, I'm just QAing the work because she started in January and we have other teammates who started since then. And I just want to make sure that like the designs are up to my standards or whatever, like the code's up to my standards. And for example, like we had one of our teammates delivered we said, here's the description, do the work. She did the work. And it wasn't what I had in mind. And it wasn't just like an artistic vision. It was like, this just isn't good enough. Whatever that means. I couldn't put my finger on it. So we told the client, we're like, this is what we built isn't up to our standards. So we're going to rebuild it. And then we put another developer on it and they nailed it. And so that's an example of project management. Yeah. But then sales, 25% marketing and sales and, probably only 5% sales, but I would love to do 100% sales. Like I saw a job come up somewhere on a job board and it was for a WordPress agency. They needed a sales guy. I was like, I would love to do that job. Like that job sounded fantastic to me. But how about you, Kurt? What's your percentage marketing and sales?
Marketing and sales, I'm 65, 70% marketing and sales. And I think what's really interesting, because we're having like a, whose agency is this anyway, right? But then talking to freelancers at the same time, there are certain clients I have where technically I'm the freelancer. I'm not even operating as mañana no más with that person. So I have two different clients where I would consider myself the freelancer. And so I'm not billing that work out at agency rates. I'm the hourly, right? Now I'm the guy going, oh, for this much, I can execute these 5 tasks. But it's steady work, it's consistent income, and I keep it because it's the smart thing to do, right? Keep that vertical going. So that probably takes 15% of my week, which really only gives me 10 or 15% of my week for actual client mañana no más work, because I'm actively marketing, promoting, always looking for that next bigger margin job. Right. And then we have team members we delegate to, right? So they pick up some of that work too. But the actual work, like you said, the project management and stuff like that, The actual work that I can do is only 10 or 15% of my time. I have to delegate the rest because I have to commit that much to sales and marketing to keep the funnel full.
Mm-hmm.
And contrary to what people think, the funnel isn't some magic funnelytics link out there that's just bringing me free clients, right?
Right. And
it's the funnel means the work to build the funnel.
Yeah, and so that's 100% true, definitely at our, let's say, freelancer agency level, but I think it's true across the board. Like Walmart is still out there advertising.
Yeah.
Target's still, named company, Suzuki Motors still advertising. Like, this is a never-ending, what do you call it, mouse wheel?
Yeah. And what's really important is even if you get those really big jobs or those really big contracts, you cannot allow those really big contracts to all of a sudden become 85% of your week. Because if you're not continuing to add to that funnel, when that work goes through the funnel and trickles out the bottom, there's nothing left in the funnel to collect on. Mm-hmm. So you either need really, really strong margins, or you need to schedule your work in a way that says, which gets us back to the original part of the conversation. Why does it take till Thursday after next to change the heading, right? Well, because they're doing other things.
Yep, exactly. Let's end it there. This is Whose Web Agency Is This Anyway? With Kurt Van Anen, Toby Crines. I hope you'll join us next week.
Thanks for listening to the WP Minute. This episode is brought to you by our amazing pillar sponsors, Pressable, OmniSend, Bluehost, and Kinsta. Without their support and the support from our WP Minute Slack members, this content wouldn't be possible. Thanks to our Foundation Plus sponsors, Hostinger, Big Scoots, Themile, Optimal, PatchStack, Weglot, Personalized WP, Deploy HQ, and WP World. Their recognition to help support independent WordPress media keeps the lights on. Want to support the WP Minute through sponsorship or joining our members-only Slack? Visit WPMinute.com/support.